Shalom from Biebna. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to share some time together, to share some Torah thoughts on the upcoming Chag HaPesach. Certainly the climax of the physical redemption from Mitzrayim, of Yitzias Mitzrayim, was Kriyas Yamsuf. After all, at what moment the Jewish people were faced with the terrible choice of to die at sea, drowning at sea, or to die at the sword of the Mitzrayim. But at the next moment, the Jewish people, they're singing songs of salvation to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on redemption, on the Kriyas Yamsuf, on the splitting of the sea. Immediately after Kriyas Yamsuf, the pasuk says, "Vayasa Moshe es Yisrael miyamsuf." Rashi over there says, "Hisian ba'al karchan." What was the need to force them to continue their travels? Rashi explains that the Mitzrayim had covered their chariots with gold, with precious metals, and the Jewish people were involved in collecting that gold. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, it's time to move on. The Aperion, the Sefer of Rav Shlomo Gansfried ala Torah, raises the question, we don't understand. After all, just a week earlier, the Jewish people were very much encouraged by Moshe Rabbeinu to try and to take the booty from the Mitzrayim. Yishalu daber na ba'aznei ha'am, yishalu ish me'eis re'eu, v'isha me'eis rusa, klei chesef, klei zahav v'smados. So there the Jewish people, they're told to take the shalal from Mitzrayim. And over here, the Jewish people, they're told, let's move on. So to be able to answer this question, we need to try to first understand what's the significance, what's the great meaning of the rechush gadol. After all, already 400 years beforehand, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avram Avinu about Bris Ben HaBesarim, about the Shibud Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them, well, they're going to leave Mitzrayim eventually, v'acharechen yetzu b'rechush gadol. So must be something very important, very significant about this rechush gadol. Rabbi Soloveitchik, quoted in the Siach Hagrid Haggadah, suggests that the significance of the rechush gadol is not in the rechush in of itself, but rather it's indicative of the fact that the Jewish people were leaving Mitzrayim not as runaway slaves, but rather as free men. After all, a slave isn't given gifts. A slave doesn't have the ability to accept gifts. Masha kana eved kana rabo. When the Jewish people, they're given gifts upon leaving Mitzrayim, that indicates that now they're free men. Furthermore, generally speaking, a person looks down on a slave, despises him, doesn't give him gifts. When the Jewish people received the booty from the Mitzrayim, when they're given those gifts, that's an indication that they're being sent away as free men. However, there's another approach in the Mefarshim to rechush gadol, one that is suggested by the Dibna Magid in the Sefer Emes Liakov, quoted in the Migdal Eder Haggadah. In the famous explanation, he points out the following. The Gemara in Brachos, Daf Tes Amud Aleph, that discusses this topic, the Gemara there relates, Daber na ba'aznei am amri dvei Rab Yanai, ein na ela lashon bakasha. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, b'bakasha mimcha, lech emor lahem liYisrael, b'bakasha mikem, shalu mitzrayim, klei chesef klei zahav. Shalo yomar oso tzadik, so then Avram Avinu won't complain. So Avram Avinu won't say, v'avadim v'inu al sam kiyem bahem, v'acharechen yitzu b'chush gadol, lo kiyem bahem. So Moshe Rabbeinu is asked, please, tell the Jewish people that they should please ask the Mitzrayim for the klei chesed, klei zahav, so Avram Avinu won't complain. Very strange, says the Maggid. After all, obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Elokei Emes, is going to fulfill his promise, regardless of whether Avram Avinu will or won't complain. So the Maggid explains, based on the famous mashal, of some child that works for his neighbor. He mows the lawn, cleans up the yard, paints the house. After working for a number of hours, he comes to receive his payment. And the neighbor, he gives him a check for $100. Nice payment for a few hours of work. The kid comes home to his father and complains, I worked for such a long time, and all I get is just this piece of paper? So the father tried to explain to him, well, this piece of paper is worth a lot of money. Kid didn't understand. So the father goes to the neighbor and tells the neighbor, you know and I know that this check is certainly something valuable, but hey, my kid doesn't understand. Maybe you could give him some shiny coins to now make him happy. Let's give him some shiny pennies, and when he grows up, he'll understand that in fact, what you gave him, the check, is of great value. Along similar lines, says the Magid, the complaint of Avram Avinu would be the following. Certainly Avram Avinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu recognize that the rechush gadol that was spoken of, the rechush gadol that was promised to Avram Avinu, is referring to the Torah. The Torah the Jewish people are meant to receive just a number of weeks later. But the problem is that the Jewish people on their level, the Jewish people, they're coming from Memtes Sharei Tuma, they couldn't understand that the Torah is rechush gadol. They did understand, they were able to relate to, they had a very difficult life there in Mitzrayim. So they expect to get a rechush gadol, a rechush that they could appreciate. The rechush that they could appreciate, that's the kesef, that's the zahav, that's the begadim that they get from the Mitzrayim. So thus, the Dubna Magid explains that the true rechush gadol is certainly the Torah the Jewish people are meant to receive out of Har Sinai. However, the Jewish people on their level wouldn't necessarily be able to understand that yet. At that level, in terms of where they're holding. So says the Sefer Apiryon, this was all true, that they weren't able to appreciate what the rechush gadol is really meant to be before Ma'amad, before the experience of Kriyas Yamsuf. But at Kriyas Yamsuf, Chazal tell us, Ze keli vanveu masher ra'asa shivcha alayam lo ra'a Yechezkel miyamav. The Jewish people, they have this awesome spiritual experience. They're able to, so to speak, see God's presence. Then already, the Jewish people are on a higher level. Then they're meant to be able to understand what are the finer things in life. They're meant to be able to understand what's truly rechush gadol. Then Moshe Rabbeinu says, hey, this is kids stuff. Vayasa Moshe Asa'am. Let's move on. Let's already go for the true rechush gadol. Let's go for that which is truly important. Ad kan, the pshat of the Apiryon. Certainly, if we compare the worldview of a fellow that did not have the opportunity to spend time in yeshiva and one that did have that zchus, we're talking about two very different perspectives. Hopefully, one of the things which we've picked up as a result of developing as B'nai Torah, as a result of being able to spend time in yeshiva, is an understanding of what's truly rechush gadol, what's truly valuable, what's truly important. There's a humorous anecdote told of a certain Jew that lived in some Torah community that, thank God, had a very nice parnasa and was interested in buying some new fancy car. But he was a little bit, his wife was a bit concerned. Perhaps if you buy that car, people are going to be jealous. It's going to make people feel bad. So the fellow went to consult a Rav. I believe I heard the story about consulting Rav Chaim Kanievsky. In any case, so the fellow comes to the Rav and he tells him, explains his dilemma. So the Rav says, well, hey, tell me, do you know Shas well? Do you have a good handle on Shas? So he says, not really. Once I participated a bit in Daf Yomi Shurim, but is there any Masechta, asked the Rav, that you have a good command on? I can't really say so. Any mitzvos that you are outstandingly performing? He says, well, I try here and there, but nothing. So says the Rav, jealous? Because you have a new car? Why are people going to be jealous of you? So, every person, every community, every individual on his own rechush gadol, his own system of priorities, his own things, own list of things that he's jealous of. Pasuk says in Mishlei, Chav Gimel, Ayi kanei libcha b'chata'im, kim b'yiras Hashem kol hayom. If you're going to be jealous of the fact that the next fellow is more involved in Torah, more involved in mitzvahs. Hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, this Pesach we'll be able to celebrate our freedom from not only the physical bondage, but also spiritual bondage. We'll be able to grow in Torah, feel the spiritual experience of Yitzias Mitzrayim, of Kriyas Yamsuf, be able to march towards the Kabbalah Satorah on Chag HaShavuos, and the Kabbalah Satorah that in fact takes place every day. Chag Sameach, Chag Kasher V'Sameach.